Welcome to Season 4 of Everything is Learning. This season, we're celebrating neurodivergent people, their stories, strengths, challenges, and the powerful ways they learn and live. Because honoring every individual's brain and lived experience makes the world a better place for everybody. We're excited you're here. Let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome back to Everything is Learning. This season, we are talking about neurodiversity, and today we are pleased to introduce you to Sydney Zier. She is an experienced neurodivergent travel planner and IBCCES certified autism travel professional, whose heart beats for adventure, connection, and inclusion. She's traveled the world navigating the nuances of neurodiversity, charting sensory-friendly excursions, so important, anticipating surprises, and celebrating freedom in every journey. Drawing from her own lived experience, Sydney founded Neurodivergent Travel Planner, a warm and understanding space that helps families design trips where every member feels seen, heard, and supported. Amazing. Whether it's spacing out accommodations for decompression, packing favorite sensory toys, or crafting calm pre-trip social scripts, her attention to detail transforms stress into memorable family escapades. Sydney isn't just a guide, she's a companion on your journey. Through her Instagram and TikTok, at neurodivergent_travel, she shares short, heartfelt tips, magical behind-the-scenes moments, like welcoming families aboard a sensory-adapted Disney cruise, and candid reflections on what truly makes travel joyful. Her mission is simple, yet powerful: to turn travel into a space where neurodivergent families thrive. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
One thoughtfully planned itinerary at a time. Warm, knowledgeable, and unwaveringly empathetic, Sydney invites audiences to explore the world with confidence, compassion, and a sense of wonder. Amazing. Welcome, Sydney. Thanks so much for being here today.
We're so psyched that you're here, Sydney. Thank you for all that you're doing for the neurodivergent community. Thank you for all you're doing to teach neurotypical people about all of this. It's incredible. We're just so honored to have you here.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm stoked to be here, and I feel like I'm learning as much from everyone else that I interact with on this journey as other people do for me. It's been so much fun.
That's so nice. Yay, learning
Love
mentors.
that.
Right?
That's a core foundation of our work. But I was so anxious to talk to you because both Elena and I, we had a family excursion that came up, and I have been watching your content avidly because in 2030 I am trying to plan a trip for my family to Universal Studios and Disney, and so you will be on the agenda as far as who I reach out to help coordinate. But I really love that the way in which you approach travel isn't necessarily based on excursions that you want to hit, but more about what is going to make the neurodivergent person successful in that scenario. And the way in which you present the material, I liken to like if you're playing a video game and your life level or your energy level, and that certain experiences, like just day-to-day experience, like for me, taking a shower, that's a super low impact, low energy, low sensory experience. But for my son, bath time is such a daunting experience depending on his mood. And so I love that the way in which you set things up is based on the sensory input that someone would receive. And what a cool way to rethink my travel, because I don't do a good job of saying no. I'm like, oh, this is potentially my one shot at this experience, so we want to try and fit everything in. But then that leads to meltdowns, and even I get dysregulated, especially if I can't control the weather in that scenario. So I can only imagine what that feels like for my children.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like having a neurodivergent family makes you really good at learning how to say no. I am very much a people pleaser, and even with me, like PTSD before having kids and sensory overload, completely disassociating, but it was like, no, I can just disassociate and keep going and not remember my trip, and that was like, I can do that. And then once I had a child who needed to slow down, it became really easy for me to tell family, look, we're not doing this. This is what we're doing. If you want to meet up and join us here and there, that's awesome. But we're not going to push our family to meet your needs. And that
the
boundary,
chills I just got. I love a good boundary. I love a good boundary.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that. That's so cool. Well, usually we start with an icebreaker, Sydney, but like
Yeah.
that was great. Like you've been on our minds, so we
For
needed to
sure.
share. But
Yes.
the icebreaker question that I wanted to ask you, just because when you look at your social media, it's so profound the way that you like start your videos. I know one of them just went viral. I just saw that. That's
Congrats.
awesome.
Yeah,
Woo woo.
it was very stressful. They don't warn you about that. But you're gonna get flooded with DMs and emails and sometimes some mean comments. But
Hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's
so tough.
Sipping on that haterade.
crazy. I mean, I'm so thankful for being able to reach more families and help more families. But the
Yes.
sudden like flood of waking up and it was like 200 plus notifications on TikTok, and I'm like, I
People don't
have
talk about
what?
that part, right?
No.
It's not all
But
sunshine and
Yes, don't.
rainbows.
I
Yeah,
love
right.
that. Well, in one of your most recent videos, I just like I don't know where it was, but it just brought you to this like place and
Riverside,
it was
I
like
think.
majestic and it was like I don't know the parks as well as I
Yeah.
probably should. I've been to Universal and Disney a few times, but like walking in, it was just like, ah. And it made me think like, if your life were a movie, what song would play in the opening?
So probably because it's top of mind because my youngest is a huge Mary Poppins fan right now. We watch that movie every single day. A spoonful of sugar for sure.
Oh,
Except the sugar is more so like earplugs and sensory tools, and the mess that's being cleaned up is just my life. I
I feel
think that,
strongly
yeah,
that you need to make that video.
Yeah.
That would also
yeah,
go viral.
yeah. It's the sensory tools or the spoonful of sugar that makes the travel go down.
Oh,
Oh,
I
that's so
love
good.
that.
That's so
See,
good and on
this is what
brand.
it's all about. Vibing and like thinking and learning together. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that so much. How
That's awesome.
clever.
It is.
So
I very
clever.
much like that, and also appreciate your daughter's taste in Disney. But I gotta know, is it original Mary Poppins, Julie
That was the next
Andrews,
Yes,
question.
or Emily
yes.
Blunt? Okay.
OG Mary Poppins. All of my kids love it. My youngest is 2, and he found a little hat from a costume that my daughter had like years ago. But it's the whole like brimmed hat. So we found it, and immediate was just like, this looks like Bert from Mary Poppins. And he puts it on, and he grabs his little fake cane, which is like a little foam building block tube, and he'll walk around like it's his cane and like dance and do the
Cute.
whole,
Oh,
yeah, he'll do the
Wow.
whole scene with the penguins. It's his favorite, and yeah, it's adorable.
stop.
Great
Okay,
choices. Great choices.
I love
Wonderful.
this. Mm.
Well, getting started on the fact that we're here to talk about neurodiversity, can you tell us how has your relationship with neurodiversity, whether through diagnosis, identity, or lived experience, shaped how you see yourself and your loved ones, even your clients, and the world around you?
Yeah, that's a big question. I like to think that I was an empathetic person before like PTSD and having a neurodivergent family, but nothing really makes you understand other people's experiences like living any kind of version of it. And I know my version of a neurodivergent family, living through that, traveling with that is not the same as somebody else. It's a huge spectrum. Um, but understanding, getting glimpses of what I go through compared to what other people go through, I feel like it has me walk into a conversation with other parents and caregivers fully knowing that I know nothing. You know, like I might be the travel professional, but I know nothing about your lived experience and your struggles and your loved ones and how what they're going through and how I can help them experience travel. Really, I don't know anything until I get to know who's traveling. And so a big part of how I walk into helping people travel or experiencing anything alongside them is I have to know them because I might be the professional, but I'm not the expert on anyone else's life.
Oh my
So
gosh, the way
yeah,
that just made me emotional was like, um, that is so important. And I think that's the thing that makes you so approachable, Sydney, is like your vulnerability. And also the fact that like you're like, how could I possibly know? You know, and Instead, where you go on social media and people are like, oh, I know. Oh, I know. And if people were just more curious how that could really change the relationship people have with neurodiversity, right? Like, I don't know you. I don't know your lived experience. So let's not assume and let's personalize it. And the fact that you offer that experience in addition to the second part, which is the actual job, it's this multifaceted way that you approach this. And I just think that neurodivergent travel planner is going to be a success for years to come because of the way that you approach not just the job, but people as well. And not just people, but their actual lived experiences. So I just love that about you. And I one of the things, actually, one of my questions for you is going to be like, you've talked about transforming travel stress into joy. And I love that thought. What are some of the most common obstacles that you feel like neurodivergent families face when traveling? And how do you remove or reduce those stressors?
So I might get into some hot water saying this, but the biggest issue is the vendors. The biggest issue are the companies that provide the travel experience.
Because they're
It's
not
profits over
neuroaffirming.
people. Right. It's profits over people every step of the way. We wouldn't have any accommodations if people weren't over and over again advocating for themselves and others. It wouldn't happen because it's not until it was proven to be profitable. So I go into every trip, and I've even made a video about it, of just saying, like, something I'm not buying is that vendors are naturally accommodating. It's just not true. And so the fact that there are vendors that have accommodations is amazing. It's great. We absolutely can take advantage of those. But on top of that, we still have to advocate. It's not, you can't just walk into a park and not disclose, that, oh, I need assistance. I need access to this. I need help with this. I mean, with Disney's DAS right now, there's a huge issue where, I'm now disqualified for DAS for PTSD. I can disassociate in a line and they're just, sorry,
Can you help me with
again.
what's DAS or what?
DAS is the Disability Access Service that Disney offers. So it is now specifically for, and how they word it is developmental disorders such as autism or other. So that doesn't include things like PTSD, anxiety, things like IBS, where you might need to leave a line. It doesn't include any of that anymore. So the biggest thing I have to help people with is not just navigating the accessibility things, but making the vacation that they want fit them, because sometimes you just can't walk in and say, okay, well, they have accommodations, I'm set. We really have to go through step by step how we can, really predict what's going to happen. That's why I build, sensory guides for attractions. It's what can you expect to see, like lighting wise. Are there smells? Are there loud noises? Are there big drops? Does it flip upside down? Things like that can be really triggering. And so knowing that ahead of time is a huge part of getting over those obstacles that a lot of neurodivergent people face.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Going back to, for real, I love that you have that and that you do it like as granular as you do, because that really does set people up for success. And if you've never ridden it before, how would you know? The other thing I really appreciate about what you said, there's two things. The first was to the last question, your personalization. You really honor the fact that being neurodivergent is a spectrum, because if you went in assuming that you have a blanket template and that's your one step approach, it's not going to work for people, because there's I'll offer a previous guest, Sienna. It's neurodivergent with nuance. There's nuance to every situation, to every travel, and not everyone's going to go all the same places or want all the same things. So I love that. And then related to what you were just saying, it is exhausting to have to constantly advocate, but I appreciate that you already know it, and like you have the mindset of a woman warrior, a mom warrior going into this, because ultimately I know, as someone who travel should be something that people get excited for, and I'll be honest, a lot of it, until meeting you, I used to dread it. Like, we would opt not to do things because, and I really was speaking out of both sides of my mouth, because I know that in order for things that feel hard now to feel easy later require exposure and opportunity. And if you don't give them those things, it's just you're delaying the inevitable. But I think that there was just, it felt like I couldn't break it up into digestible chunks, and you do that so nicely, and it feels effortless. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure there's like tons of pre-planning. But when I think of travel and needing to yet again advocate, that's such a daunting thing. So the fact that you take that stress away from your clients is truly remarkable. And I very much appreciate your candor about vendors, even though they offer it, the accessibility, that it's not just immediately ingrained. Elena and I were talking earlier about what is inclusive versus what is neuro-affirming, and wouldn't it be nice if a space was actually designed with everyone in mind? Right. Because then you wouldn't have to ask to advocate. It would just be ingrained in your daily process. And you talked about how profits over people, and unfortunately that is the reality that we're in, but like, you were able to make something that should just be an ingrained piece of everyday life into a business, but one that is so, I imagine, rewarding because you have personal experience with it. So thank you. And given that we were talking about the fact that the way systems, especially capitalistic systems, are set up, I'm curious that if you could reimagine a system like education, healthcare, the workplace, community life, to truly honor and support the full spectrum of how people think, learn, and experience the world, what would it look like?
They're all of it. So picking one is so hard, but if I were to focus on one, I would definitely say like workplaces. Okay. I feel like at the end of the day, companies prioritize who can make them the most money while putting in the least amount of effort into supporting them. From a lack of personalized training to a lack of pay to fund necessities, especially for neurodivergent families, like therapies or sensory tools and all of the extras that go into caring for someone with special needs. I talk to so many families who don't even dare to dream about going on a vacation because they don't have a work-life balance. They don't get enough money to go on vacation and pay for the resources that they need, or they have to work every single day because their job doesn't provide the time off that's necessary. So I think workplaces, from hiring to supporting any kind of work-life balance, are completely failing people.
It's so
That's a really
interesting.
I hope that there's people listening that could make a difference in their own workplace, or at least start thinking about that. Like something that I'm sorry for interrupting, Lane. It's something that you had mentioned. So I'm very fortunate to work for the company that I do. That said, we have the policy of unlimited PTO, and I actually think that I use less PTO because I don't have anything that could be taken away or lack of rollover. So I don't feel like I'm losing anything because it's always there for me. But then I am sort of de-incentivized to use it because it's not a use it or lose it situation, which is so different from my previous role. But that's so well thought of. Not everybody even has access to that. Where my husband's company, until he had worked there, I think it was going into year 3, he only had 5 days of PTO, which didn't even, like, that's sick time and paid time off, which is abhorrent. Yeah. Who, you get in an accident and you can't work, whether it happened at work or not, like work, maybe it would be a workers' comp, but you might be recovering for that amount of time. And if you want to keep making money, and because he's paid hourly, he misses more than that, we're not paid. So things get really tight. And to your point, the services, when you need accommodations, are equally expensive. It just gets more expensive than the vacation, which is already expensive. So I very much appreciate everything that you just said. Man, please, people out there, if you can make a difference, know how much it would benefit. You'd reduce attrition of your employees because they would feel cared for as their families. My company did spousal exclusion on our insurance. Now, if my husband didn't work and didn't have insurance, he could have stayed. But still, that was a $10,000 pay cut because that's how much it costs for him to retain any kind of insurance since they offer it. that's a really frustrating situation for me. So the fact that you talk about this, and I am not even a neurodivergent person, I just happen to have a neurodivergent loved one. But it was a big deal, and we had to opt to stay on mine because from a financial standpoint, if we switch to my husband and we're all on a family plan, we might hit our deductible sooner, but most of the current costs and resources would be out of pocket expenses instead of in network expenses. And it's so ridiculous that we have to think about this. Like when I thought about being an adult, none of this came up. Like,
No.
so,
You think about being able to eat ice cream for dinner, not
yeah,
being able to
right.
afford healthcare.
Like, having a
Watch me,
car,
Ma.
having the freedom
Right?
to do things,
I'm
right?
grown.
Exactly. Choosing what I want for
Buy my
dinner
own
and then
groceries.
hating that. Yeah, exactly. I buy my own groceries, but then I have to think about what the heck to cook every single night. Elena, what
Like,
were you
remember
gonna
when it
say?
was a magical experience where you were like on your own and single and you were like, oh, I get to, I see very often some of the neurodivergent social media superstars in my mind that I follow that I love are Callie, who is Black Spectrum Scholar, and Jocelyn, who we're gonna have on this season, who's oh gosh, I'm gonna forget her username, but it's AUDHD, and then I forget what the second part is. I'll include her in the comments too on this, but both of them have talked recently about the cost of being neurodivergent in society, like financially, fiscally. And Jocelyn talked about cooking. And I believe Callie's talked about cooking too. And Sienna, Sienna Stims is their handle, who we had on last season. They also talked about cooking. And it's just so interesting to even think about, Mercy, we're talking about perspectives. It's just so interesting to even think about, like, we're sitting here laughing about cooking, but like the mental load that it takes for a neurotypical person. And then you hear from a neurodivergent person how it's not this like wonderful experience that they've had. It's just so important that we understand that we need to know these things. We need to learn these things about other people, because something as simple as making your own food is not at all simple. And then when you add on, like when we get together for family events and stuff, and I do wonder how this transfers to your business, Sydney, because eating, if you have neurodivergent loved ones, is also a totally other piece of travel. Like when we have a celebration, my husband and I usually host, and whenever our nephew comes over, we want to make sure that we have everything and anything he could possibly want, because we want to make sure that Marissa and my brother-in-law know that, like, it's not just you're not the only one who has to, like, handle this piece of it. We love having him. We love having you. We want to make sure that you're supported. How does that transfer? I would imagine is that like a top 5 piece of planning for you? Like, where does that fall? Where does it rank?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's one of so everyone that I start planning with, we do a discovery call right off the bat before I even look up quotes, anything like that. We do a call and we talk about all the things. And one of the first things I ask are food aversions, food allergies, eating habits. All of that plays a huge role, especially because a lot of people are like, we want to travel with our safe foods because we don't know what the stores are like there if they carry this. And my child will not eat if we don't have these things. Right. So looking into, do they have a microwave, a refrigerator, or looking at places that have full kitchens. That's a huge part of looking into places and where people are going to stay. I actually just helped someone book a Disney trip today, and a big conversation we had was, how big are the refrigerators? Oh my gosh, this hotel doesn't have a freezer. What are we going to do? And so we go through, like what I do, like what works for my family, what the other options are that, sometimes you can request one for medical reasons, but all of that in food and dietary needs is a huge part of planning a neurodivergent trip.
Can you take food into the park? Like,
yes,
you can.
Yep.
Oh,
you can take food into the parks. Especially, like, you can't bring huge coolers, and they need to be soft-sided coolers just for safety reasons, that no one's like hiding anything in the side panels of their cooler. But we have a soft-sided backpack cooler that we take to the parks every time we go. And we'll freeze bags. So we'll get like a little cheap styrofoam cooler when we travel, and we'll fill it up with little ice bags. When we're in our hotel, you just refill it from the ice machine every night and put them in little Ziploc bags. Freeze water bottles and put them in our bag to keep everything cold. That's
That's
Okay.
really smart.
Top 3 hacks that you personally love in terms of traveling with your neurodivergent family. What are your top?
Hacks. I feel like all of my hacks are just resources that people maybe haven't heard of yet. So I know like TSA Cares is a whole system. You can 72 hours before travel or before, you can reach out to the airport and let them know that you have someone traveling with special needs and you might need assistance or someone to even escort you through TSA. They'll even let my daughter keep on her headphones if she needs to. They have to kind of swab it and do that, but they won't make her take them off if she's in a moment that it's just not going to be a good idea to. They're a lot more accommodating with that. That's a big major resource. Definitely bringing safe foods when you travel. You never know. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you can't bring food into this place. A lot of times, even if they say you can't bring in food to some like theme parks and things, if you let them know it's for something medically necessary, a lot of times they will let you. You just have to let them know ahead of time. I always say the worst they can do is say no, but I will 100% always ask on someone's behalf. If you have a question on anything, load it onto me. I'll do all the advocating. I think, and it sounds very like, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I do feel like a major travel hack is to use a travel planner that knows specifically what your needs are. I'm absolutely not the perfect travel planner for every single family on the planet. And I totally know that. Sometimes we don't vibe, and that's okay. But finding someone that you do really get along with. Like I am texting my clients all day. They get my cell phone number and we're all hyped up for their trip, talking about things, and find someone that you feel comfortable doing that with. That like your travel planner should be your biggest hype person for your vacation, but also someone who's going to tirelessly advocate for you and your family. I feel like people think that travel agents don't really exist anymore. Everything can be booked online. Or that a travel agent is going to cost them a fortune to use. And I don't cost anything to use. If everything is booked through me, I don't charge anyone anything.
I didn't know that.
Wait, what?
Yeah, my services are totally free.
I
The vendors will pay me a commission. So you pay the exact same thing that you would pay booking online. The vendor, because I'm helping them, I'm essentially helping them advertise with my content and talking about their locations. So in return, they'll pay me a commission. And a lot of specialization agents sometimes do charge an extra fee, but I feel like I have a hard time getting there mentally. I know so many families have a hard enough time traveling, especially neurodivergent families that might be saving for years and years and years to go on this 4-day trip. I'm not going to say, oh, hey, on top of that, you owe me. If I'm getting paid already, I'm not going to ask anyone for more money on top of that.
Wow.
Sydney.
That's such a gift.
If you believe
I
in
know
heaven,
you are getting,
straight
but that doesn't
to
mean
there.
that you don't already care. That's such a gift. Thank you. Like, I haven't even
That's
used you
wild.
yet, but on
I didn't know
behalf of
that.
other families, yeah, thank you.
Wow.
That's such an
Thank
incredible
you.
gift that you're doing, because you're taking what feels like something so insurmountable, like I'm climbing Mount Everest, and you're giving me a plateau. Like yes, it's hard, and I have to get there, and you can do only so much for me, but like the plateau of planning, and like I'll have to do the thing, but you're setting me up for the success of it. And I'm seriously, what a gift.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
But
wild.
I had a random question. So it's great that Disney has accessibility services, but you said autism and other. Other is a big bucket.
Yeah.
But you said PTSD isn't included, anxiety isn't included, IBS isn't included. Those are all things that I could really see someone needing. What the heck is other?
Yeah.
This is
This
full
is
on
really what it's like.
someone who's very much like, if you get on the phone with me and you're asking me about accommodations and what they realistically look like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to let you spend thousands of dollars to show up at this place and go, this is not what Sydney told me was going to happen. Like, we're not doing that. So, and other is very broad. so it's up to whoever you talk to when you apply, essentially. So you talk to a cast member, and they decide your fate. You have
So it's
to
not
tell
even like
them.
a standard operating
Consistent.
procedure. Like, yeah, right.
It's
There's
not super
okay.
consistent. They're trying to get more consistent, but their consistency is in really being ultra picky. So the first
Okay.
time I applied after this change, they approved me for PTSD because I talked about how I had used it before, how daily coping with PTSD, things like disassociating, having panic attacks, all of that stuff. They were like, absolutely, you still qualify, go for it. I applied again for our last trip, and they said, okay, I really want to approve you, but I need to get our physician on this call to talk to you to see if you can be approved or not. So you need to further discuss your diagnosis to potentially get approved. So the doctor comes on, and then I'm diving into like, I'm shaking and super anxious because mine is based around trauma of abduction for a trigger warning. We're going to put that in front of that. But yeah, I just was beyond, I wasn't mentally prepared. And they said, so sorry, what you have doesn't qualify anymore. If you feel like you're disassociating or having a panic attack, you can leave the line and the rest of your group can wait, and you can rejoin them when they're closer to the front, which doesn't work for my family because it's my husband and I and 3 kids. So I'm not going to take my kids out of the line with me while I'm disassociating and having a panic attack while my husband stays in line. And
Or
I'm not
vice
going to leave by
versa.
myself, right? My husband isn't
Yeah.
going to go, hey, so you're disassociating and having a panic attack. Go out into the park by yourself. I'll wait here in this. It's just not going to happen. We're just not going to ride the ride. And that's really what it came down to, is we just skipped a lot of the things because I wasn't going to risk, let's see if I can make it through this line and potentially ruin my kids' experience today.
Sure.
That just wasn't worth it to me. So yeah, the accommodations are really really strict now, and like autism or other, a lot of times that does mean ADHD can qualify in specific circumstances. You have to really prove that whoever is applying for this cannot wait in a conventional queue, and if that isn't really really a major issue for whoever is traveling, it's likely not going to get approved. I can't say for sure or not it will, but in the experience of all of my clients really applying for it, that has been the case.
Thank you for that. I
The
am
level
very
of
grateful that they do include autism because I do think that that is a strong and compelling need.
yes.
The other, I mean, I'm glad that they are open, allowing it from a case by case basis, but that is still very difficult, especially if like sometimes it was included or allowed and then sometimes it's not. And I am the least grateful that despite the fact that like they're consistent with how they're going about the other for everyone, because
Right.
in my mind I'm like, oh, Disney would have total advantage to giving this to you because you advertise for them, but at the same time, like if I had PTSD and I didn't do that, then why is it okay for you but not okay for me?
Right, the consistency. Yeah. I I
So
I appreciate their attempt at having some kind of consistency. And for people that get approved, for people that can utilize it, it is an amazing resource. DAS has made Disney accessible for my daughter. She loves going. She's able to experience a lot of the things, and that is amazing. And I love that. Um, it's just really, I mean, and they're really finding that middle ground, because there were so many people that were abusing it, that were
sure.
saying, oh, I have some anxiety at this one point. And because they're not physicians, they didn't require medical documentation or anything. So people were just going and saying, oh, I have this. And then even the lines after you can go through in a lightning lane for return time would be really long. And then they're not helpful anymore. There
Sure.
have been times where I've utilized DAS and gone in to go through kind of the lightning lane that they have, and I'm still in line for 30 minutes, or I'm in a corner of a really crowded pre-show room and I've just had to leave and just go,
It's
I
too
appreciate the service,
overstimulating,
but it
it's
wasn't
too
helpful
dysregulating.
anymore.
Yeah.
And so they're really trying to find that middle ground to where it is helpful for the people that need it, but they need to find that place where they are helping everyone who needs it, but also being able to not have it be taken advantage of by people who don't
Sure.
necessarily need it.
Wow.
I don't know. You guys are giving Disney way too much effing grace, in my opinion. I'm so wildly angry about that.
But I mean, Lane, think about the fact that, like, if I recognize your anger, and I'm sorry for interrupting, and I do want you to finish your thought. But also, if it were easy for everybody to access, to Sydney's point about people abusing the situation, like no one wants to go and wait in line.
Yeah,
And
then it's not a resource for anyone. But
exactly.
That's not the
we can
problem
look,
that I have with
but
this,
we
though.
can, right. And we can look to other. So my family loves going to Universal, not to pin one against the other. Both of them are amazing for their own specific reasons.
Sure.
But going through where I'm certified as an autism travel professional is through IBCCES. And they offer an IAC, which is a card that gains you access to a lot of places to get accommodations like Disney's DAS. So it's an AAP at Universal, an accessibility pass. And you're able to have this card that you need medical documentation to get. So you've already proven that you need this resource. All you have to do is show them, I have this IAC and I need this resource, and they give it to you. And so it weeds out, because if you don't have medical documentation, you're not getting it. But then there's that gap of the people that can't get a diagnosis, that can't get the documentation. It does make it so that they can't have access to it. So it's really this like, okay, that's great for Universal. They weeded out the people who are trying to take advantage of it, but they're also weeding out the people who can't necessarily gain access to proper medical care. So everyone's kind of missing this big chunk of people who need a resource. And I don't have the right answer for being able to allow everyone to gain access, but they're both, I think, trying in their own kind of way.
Yeah. My issue is not only that the system is broken, but here is my issue with this. You, someone who has PTSD, had to speak to a medical representative that doesn't know you. Mm-hmm. You had to defend your disability or diagnosis or needs to a stranger who is going to decide your fate based on what they believe in that particular moment. And that's what's broken. That's what I'm angry about. Yep. That somebody has to defend themselves and their lived experience to another person who doesn't know them at all. That's broken. That's bull. We don't swear on here, but like yeah. I'm furious because I'm dealing with clients. I'm dealing with a broken system. We are all dealing with broken systems. I am working with clients right now across ages, across different backgrounds, across different diagnoses. And my frustration is what you experienced, which is the ableism and the discrimination. It's prove it. Prove it or you don't get it.
Yep.
No. I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. No.
Completely. I told my husband, I was like, I'm never applying for the AS again. After that experience, I told him, I was like, I'm never doing it again. And he was just like, I get it. I understand. He has ADHD. And he was like, I could probably get approved. Even, he has a lot of anxiety. He has ADHD and anxiety. And even with, he is on medication for it, all of that, has it somewhat managed, but we still run into issues when we travel. And he was like, but my panic attacks aren't like your panic attacks. And he was just like, if it was like pit one against the other, he was like, you need this resource more than I do, that we would both benefit from it. But yours is like, you go into full fight or flight, you completely disassociate your whole, not just day, but week. I'm on edge. We come home from trips and there are times where I'm just like, I can't re-regulate and I'm having night terrors and there's all these issues that come along with it. And he's like, I don't have night terrors for weeks, going to Disney. That's not part of what happens to me, but they're able to look at you and just go, thank you for telling us all of your trauma. No, right. Best really of luck, go on your way, and call, and they move on with their day. But I was completely shaken up. Yeah.
I think I'm still in awe of the fact that then you continue to, and I know you're really supporting your clients here and not maybe necessarily the vendor, but I think it's still kind of amazing that you're willing to help people given the experience that you did have. relate to that because I don't know
a
that I
big
would have
part
made
of
the same
that
choice.
is me seeing my kids, I
Mm.
think is a huge part of it. So going their absolute favorite place to go is a Disney park. They love
Okay.
it. They always ask, when are we going next? When can I see Mickey again? And their joy is totally worth it for me to go and do this. And that's where I understand a lot of the backlash I'll get in comments and things. How are you supporting Disney? Their DAS system is broken. And I'm always in there immediately, the first one to say, I agree with you. However, I am not someone to tell any other family that they shouldn't go here and experience the joy and see their kids light up the way that I've seen my kids light up going here. I'm not one to tell you don't experience that. That is a decision that I feel like I'm going to give you all the information you need and you make the best decision for your family from there. I'm not going to sugarcoat the accessibility systems or all of the overload that comes with going to a theme park. I'm going to tell you as it is. If you still feel like my kids are really going to enjoy this, I'm going to help you get there and completely back you as best I can through it.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm kind of getting
I
emotional.
know, I'm crying
because
too. And
you talked about the joy it brings to kids, and like, unfortunately, as messed up as the situation is, for you, you're not letting that tamper with your children's joy. What a gift. Not only that you give to families, but that you're giving to your kids. I hope that sometime that they recognize what an incredible mom you, I mean, I'm sure they do, but like from a whole different lens. Someone who isn't your child, I can offer. I'm in awe of the fact because that's exactly what I want. And that's exactly why I'm grateful that there are things like that, as flawed as they are, because my son wouldn't be able to experience that joy. I watch Moana, Encanto, Zootopia, and Frozen every
Over a
single
billion
day in
billion.
10-second increments of the same 10-second clips over and over and over again. I know seeing those characters and making any kind of semblance of that seem real to him is going to do. And Disney can do that. And Universal can do that, right? Like when they get into Harry Potter, and it's a when, not an if. When they get into Harry Potter, like
Yeah.
that's what I'm so grateful for. And so I am saddened that there are people who are having trouble, but like thank you. And thank you for seeing like using the trauma that you experienced, including the scenario, and not choosing to be beat by it, and to give a gift not only to your kids but to other families. Thank you. I don't know that you hear it enough, and I want to make sure you do.
Thank you. I always tell people, I mean, you can talk about the logistics of getting somewhere all day long, but I always tell them the one time you're going to want to have your phone out when you go to somewhere like Disney or Universal is when they first enter a specific park. You want your camera on your kid's face the first time they see the castle, the first time they see the dragon on, in the Harry Potter world, the first time they see a parade go by with their favorite characters. It's not the shots of the park that I love. I use them for my content and things like that. But 10 out of 10, I'm going to be turning the camera at my child so I can personally remember their expression. I still cry watching my daughter watch a Disneyland parade for the first time. And it's just a recording of her face seeing it. And she's just freaking out and waving. And then one waves in her direction. And for weeks, she was just like, Moana waved at me. And it was just like this, like, you can't put a price on that. Like you can. Disney's expensive. Their price tag is very high. But
they will put a price
They
on
found
it.
a way.
They will put a price on it. But it's like the mental load of, okay, my husband's going to get overstimulated. He's going to plow through a crowd because his anxiety and his ADHD is going to go, I need to get out of this crowd, and we're all going to book it behind him, and it's going to be high stress for 5 minutes. But they're not going to, they don't remember that. They don't remember, okay, we're hightailing it out of a crowded area. They're remembering Moana waved at me.
Yes,
And,
right.
I saw fireworks and, heard all this wonderful music from all my favorite movies and met all these characters. And that's the experience that every family deserves in whatever capacity it might be. It doesn't always look like your child talking to a character. Sometimes it's just, happy stims are my favorite thing to see in the parks. Like that.
Those videos.
There are
every time. Makes me every time.
It's yeah, and and it's because so many people that don't understand too. You get the stares, and the judgment that you feel like people are giving when your child doesn't express joy or frustration in the same way, but they're experiencing the magic of your vacation in their own way. And as their parent, knowing them better than really anyone else does, seeing their purest expression of joy is worth every second of helping people plan these trips. It's the biggest part of why I love doing this.
So I know that you have a background in education, and a lot of times people are like, oh, teachers, like they're doing, God's work, or they're doing, what other people won't do, and they need to get credit for it and all this different stuff. But I gotta say, honestly, neurodivergent travel planners, like the moments that you're creating, you know what I mean? Like that's the thing. It's like you are making these beautiful moments for these families, and the joy. I love that. I love the, do we call that a tagline that you talk about? How you bring joy to this travel experience instead of stress and obstacles? Like, is that a tagline?
Amen.
I don't have a tagline.
I feel like it should be.
Maybe it should be
Yep.
something along those lines.
I think neurodivergent travel planner, bringing joy to travel. I don't know. I think we could do better than that. Something.
Yeah, I was gonna
Mary
say maybe
Poppins
glimmers. Something
Oh
about
yeah,
glimmers.
Glimmers are
Yeah.
cool. Have you heard about glimmers, Sydney?
No.
The concept of glimmers. Okay, Marissa, you'll explain it better than I will.
Oh well, okay. So you like there's like microaggressions, right? And like different things that triggers are the word. Like you know how you had mentioned earlier about trigger warning. Glimmers are the antithesis of that. So where something might be a trigger for you, if something like brings you joy. So for me, it's moose. I happy stemmed the first time I ever saw a moose at the Columbus Zoo. My husband still talks about this experience. It's not in the same way. I definitely got stares because I am loud. That was the volume of that was a glimmer. And you bring glimmer to travel.
Yeah, bringing glimmer to travel.
Bringing glimmer to travel.
So
we did it.
For those in the know of trigger versus glimmer, then they'll pick that up. But I don't know that it's widely circulated enough. But I still love that tagline.
Yeah,
and
glimmers.
Think you should own
bringing
that.
glimmers to travel.
Glimmers.
And then people can be like, "What does that even mean?" And then you're like, "Oh, well, this is what I do."
Yeah.
I love this.
Well, guess what I learned on Everything is Learning.
Yes, thank you. But I definitely, I know you've brought this up, and so I definitely want to make sure because it's something that I'm curious about. How long has your own journey living with PTSD and parenting a neurodivergent child and having a husband with ADHD, how has that influenced your perspective on what inclusive travel really means?
I think it comes back to living it changes everything. So I notice things that a lot of neurotypical folks probably don't when they're traveling. The light changing, the overwhelming smells, the how accommodations do or don't work. It's walking into a space and having like your blinders off almost. It's like oh my gosh, especially with learning so much from the families that I've helped plan. I learned so much from them. And it's okay. I immediately think like, oh my gosh, this family, like the Smith family, they would have noticed, this thing happening, or I know someone's traveling soon to a park that I'm going to. So like I'm going to Disneyland next week, and I know I have families going to Disneyland soon. And so I already know I'm going to walk in there and go, okay, these families' needs in my mind.
Yeah.
How can I look at it from their perspective? I think that changes. Is this inclusive? Is this going to be inclusive for them? Because what's inclusive for some isn't for someone else. And it's like the brand new Epic Universe Park that Universal has. I went in there like with my husband. We went in May. And the entire time, I mean, now he's in that mindset too, because, this is my job and I talk about it all the time of like, this isn't inclusive for these people. And I get all heated about it. And he'd walk and he would be the one just like, oh my gosh, the ramp to this location is all the way, like the stairs are right there in the middle. But if you want the ramp, you got to walk all the way around here and it's so hot and there's no shade and that's not inclusive. And so I feel like it's like my whole family now being able to learn from the people that I've helped and learn from our own experiences definitely makes anywhere we travel, anything that we do, our minds are now like, like a whole new world kind of aspect to
Yeah.
it. This is a whole new world, but it's really not all it's cracked out to be. It's really not inclusive. So I think, yeah, the way that I kind of advocate for my clients is different because of what I've learned, and the way that I see everywhere that I go is different because of living it, but also because of all of the people that I've had the pleasure of working with.
Yeah.
I'm so assured by the fact that you have young humans who are already picking up on this, who
Right?
will think about this and make the world a better place. That's awesome. Like, it
It's
doesn't just
amazing.
have to fall on adults, that you're already shaping the future. So thank you. Some
Right?
days
Isn't that the
looks a
whole,
little bit
I'm
more
like,
bleak. That's really positive.
I jokingly on our last trip, so my son was with his dad in Arizona for a lot of the summer. He came back with us, but went on some trips while he was gone. And I always have to get him, if I go anywhere without him, I'm just like, I have to bring him something. And the one thing I said, I got you a sticker. It's something that I always tell you. And he was like, don't be a prick. And it's a little cactus.
Changing
It's a
and
little
harming the
cactus,
next generation.
Oh,
right?
is that what it
And
was?
it says, it's a little cactus, and it says, don't be a prick. And so I got it for his water bottle. Because when I drop him off at school, well, when I used to, my husband drops him off now, but when I used to drop him off every day, he's very book smart. I mean, like, doesn't have to study. I used to get mad at him because he wouldn't study for his spelling test, but he would be like, Mom, I get A's. I get 100 on every single one. Why do I have to spend my time studying? And I was like, you know what? That's fair, but I'm like, you don't have to try to be book smart, but I don't care that you're smart and can read a book. I care that you're kind to people. So when I drop him off, I would go, you don't have to be the smartest, but you have to be, and he says, the kindest when he gets out the door. And that has been our kind of like everyday daily routine thing. And so when I stopped dropping him off at school, when he'd get ready in the morning, he'd like walk out the door, walk to school, go with my husband and be like, you don't have to be the smartest. He's like, I have to be the kindest. But
And don't be a
I'm
prick.
feeling that.
right. And I'm like, and
feeling
here's
that.
your sticker.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Thank you. I love your sense of humor. It brings me so much joy.
So good.
You have to laugh through the chaos of life. I'm like, it's so easy to see everything that's going wrong. I mean, people say especially now, but I feel like it's been always. It's just now we have this major exposure to everything that's happening. We're in a big stage, I feel like, where people are seeing things that they didn't see before.
Yeah. It's
And
blinders off.
Right.
yeah, absolutely. But now I'm like, well, we have to find the moments of joy. And that's a big part of like planning vacations. And I would tell my husband, it's so unnecessary. I feel like there were times where I'm like, my job is so unnecessary. Like I'm also in education and I taught and I love doing that. And I felt super necessary in that role. But I was like, do people really need, like going on a vacation? And I'm just like, well, when we're really burnt out and struggling and life just feels so heavy, sometimes having that countdown to we're going to get to go experience this thing. I feel confident that my family is supported and advocated for, and being able to experience those things are just those moments of like, okay, the world is burning, but we can still find something to laugh about in the meantime. What is the point if the whole time we're just miserable?
For real.
I'm not going to be effective.
To look forward to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I make jokes a lot. That's also my coping mechanism and everything and all the things. Things go wrong and I'm just like, ha ha ha. My husband's like, that's not funny. It's not everything's a joke. And I'm just like, it is when you're me.
I love that. That's great. Well, I know I just talked about how assured I am because of your kids getting this messaging, but this also leads into a question, which is what makes someone a meaningful ally in neurodiversity spaces, and what makes actions big or small? Oh, I'm sorry, what actions, big or small, have you or your family made that helps people feel seen, supported, or respected? And it sounds like your husband's already well on that path. I wonder if your kids, I mean, clearly your son, but I wonder if your kids also can spot the non-inclusion.
Right. Let's make a scavenger hunt everywhere we plan.
Yeah.
Let's point out
spot the inclusion.
That
what's
would
right,
be
right?
such
What's
a
right
great
and
reel.
wrong.
You have
right?
to, you should, oh my God. Well, then, like partnering with parks and stuff. I don't know if that would be
Yeah,
bad.
they did this wrong. Look at this door.
No,
Can't,
but
you know,
doing it positively, then it'll make them want to do it more. I'll help
Right.
make that go viral.
Boppity change it.
Yeah, right.
Right. But I honestly, I feel like everyone just wants to be able to be. Like, just letting people, I think the biggest thing that anyone could do is eventually, hopefully one day, people can walk in anywhere and just know that they can exist without stares, without pity, without having to completely explain your situation to hopefully maybe get an accommodation. If the accommodations just existed in a way that didn't add such a huge mental load onto the people that need them, that would be like my dream scenario. Hopefully that can exist someday. I think individually, it's, not being the one to stare at somebody that is having a meltdown, or being the people, especially on online spaces. It's, why is your 5-year-old still in a stroller? And it's constantly like the judgment is always there for families. It's just like trying to understand people, just having an open mind, going in knowing you don't know anything about me or my family. I don't know anything about you or yours. But if you tell me, hey, this one thing is going to make my day so much better, and it takes almost no effort at any given time to provide that to somebody. And, hey, can you give us a little bit more space in line? Hey, can you not touch me because that's triggering to me? Or can you just, like, the littlest things that everybody can do in any given situation to help somebody without being snotty about it. It was just, I feel like the kind route is always so much easier than the picking a fight route. Yet we see this no, me, myself, and I mentality a lot of times when people travel. And that's a big hard part, a thing that I have to prepare people for, which is awful, that when you're in a line for a snack, you might have someone really close to your child who doesn't like being close to someone, doesn't like being touched. And it's the constantly having to advocate for yourself, not just to vendors, but to the people you're around. And if people around could just say, okay, I can step away, I can do the little thing, I can not be talking so loud, and my really loud guy's voice that is, like triggering to me, can you please stop yelling right by my ear? It's freaking me out. If a response could just be, I got you, I think that would be a huge part of including people that often don't feel included in the spaces they walk into.
Love that.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem hard to be an ally. But I wonder if the reason, and I'm neurotypical, which also I hate that word. And I use the word hate for words, not people. But for words, because I don't feel like anything that incites division is not helpful. But it's also really interesting because I'm learning from the neurodivergent community that there are also words that are very necessary that, only recently, I feel like in the last few years, the word disability, I feel like, is being destigmatized. Like before, I feel like anytime I walked into a school, and I was an educator walking into schools constantly, and I would get so aggravated with families being like, oh, that child has special needs. And I'm like, you're the one that's bringing that, like, weird, like, I don't know. It causes like a sensation in me when somebody whispers it, or when somebody changes like what the intent is of a word. And then to have to do all the work to destigmatize and to teach other people. I feel like people in the neurodivergent community are doing it all the time, and it's exhausting. And the situation that you gave earlier, where you had to sit there and you had to advocate for yourself to explain your situation. So I had a student, and their preferred form of communication was typed, and they just didn't want to keep explaining to people about their disability. So they wrote a paragraph and they would just hand it to people. And it was like, I don't want to have to explain this anymore. Like, this is exhausting. And they were 8. Like, this is coming from an 8-year-old who's already burned out as a disabled individual. And it was heartbreaking, but it was wild. The acceptance that people had immediately by not requesting someone advocate and explain themselves for someone who is participating in a society that doesn't work for them. You know what I mean? And the power behind that piece, that's the piece that you're giving, Sydney. That's the value added that you give that other people don't. Is that you're not making them explain themselves. You're not making them explain their life situation to anyone. And you already understand it on a different level than other people do. Just the nuanced piece of it to say, I don't know you. I don't know your exact situation, but there is some relatability that we share. And that already makes you a safer person than someone who is a travel agent who does not specialize in helping neurodivergent families. And I think that is so powerful. So when you question at any point in time whether or not you are needed or this job is necessary, it is unequivocally yes. Unequivocally. You as a person, you and your business, and the services that you're offering people, unequivocally, absolutely yes. And we are
need
so
more
grateful.
Of you, if anything.
Like, but
Thank you.
just
And that's
you.
yeah.
Like Jack, like multiply. Like we just want
Yeah.
you. Like lots of
Right?
little yous.
Yeah.
I
With
always-
all
I-
the history and knowledge that you have and compassion and empathy and attitude, yes.
Yes.
Duplicate.
Thank you. I know. I always get people that will reach out and are just, I work in special education and I want to be able to plan trips for, the families that I work with.
Yeah.
And in travel agency realms, there are so many people who are just like, oh, this area is saturated. We have enough travel agents. And I'm always the first person like, you should absolutely do this. You should absolutely become a travel agent. You have the special education background. If your heart's in it, you live in this kind of community, you understand it, you can help people and fully be there, immerse in it with them and advocate for them, you should totally be doing this. And I'm not going to sit there and say, oh no, don't take my job. There are so many people. I mean, my last video taking off and all the inquiries I got in 72 hours shows that there are people out there that can go to any kind of travel agent. There are not enough specialized travel agents around. I can't handle every single family that needs any kind of neurodivergent planning. I can't handle every single one of them on the planet. We need more people that can do this. And I'm not going to ever tell anyone no, they shouldn't help plan travel, and especially in a niched area, especially an underserved community. We need more of people with their hearts in it doing it.
And if you're an existing travel agent already not taking advantage, here's a new window. Here's a new path. Yeah. Definitely recommend because there is a strong need. Anyway, Lane, do you want to ask our final question?
Yeah, if you could change the world to make things more inclusive, what would you choose to do?
If I could, I would change so many things.
Right.
Honestly, the way that people approach each other. It's so like I could immediately go to like these big systems and these big companies and how all of these accommodation things come together. But if I could just individually reach someone and just say, can you please care? Can we do something to change the world in a way where if my child is having a meltdown, that not everyone is just staring at her or, hearing mocking of just, oh my gosh, like they need to get it together. These parents letting their child on their tablet in a restaurant or whatever it may be. Like the work needs to come from individuals. Nothing's going to change on a big picture scale until people can look at themselves and say, okay, maybe I'm an ally, maybe I'm doing the best that I can, maybe I am someone who is living their own experiences that aren't fair. But we can all also immediately say, I also don't understand anyone else's lived experience but my own, and I will do my best to accommodate the people around me, it wouldn't be anything on a large scale. It would be, I love this job because I get to talk to individual people and their families, and I don't have conversations with these big companies with cruise lines and, resorts and things. Sometimes I go to these trips and I talk to some people that work higher up in the companies, but we're not sitting down and getting to know each other and talking about the things that matter. We're not talking about, what everyone's living day to day outside of when they walk through those gates, when they walk on board to somewhere. But we can talk to people in our everyday lives, at the grocery store, at schools, when we're talking to our neighbors, and building that understanding. The more people I talk to and get to know me, and I'm having a panic attack, or noticing the disassociation. How can I help you? How can I help ground you in some way, or even give you space? I mean, having that care to do the little thing can make such a big difference if enough people are willing to do it.
I love that.
Start small. Get
Start
some
small.
momentum.
Love that. Thank you so much for being here, Sydney. This has been such an incredible conversation. It's been eye-opening. I feel like so many people are going to listen to this and be inspired by you and want to change the world in small ways and hopefully big ways too. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. This was it's not always a fun topic, but it's always it's such a fun time connecting with other people that are here and learning and teaching and just building community. I think in a digital age, a lot of people are missing the community, and you're providing a place to kind of foster that, and it's awesome. I'm so grateful.
Oh, that's so kind. I think Trevor Noah really explained it in a beautiful way. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip. We should add that clip to our social media, but he talks about how the more advanced society gets, you have to start paying for community, essentially. So instead of raising children together, you have to pay to have someone help raise your child. Those kinds of small things. And it really is, we are really trying to build community, and you are helping us, Sydney. You're helping us make this a safer space, a more inclusive, and even better, a more neuro-affirming space. And that's our ultimate goal. We want everyone to feel accepted here. And we're just so grateful to have learned from you today, and to continue learning from you. And then, that 2030 vacation that we're going to be going on.
Yes.
We'll be talking to you along the way. We're not going to wait.
Right. Okay. Bye. See you in 5 years.
Yeah, right. I'm going to bury a time capsule so we know what we talked about here, and then pull it out in 5 years and see what's changed.
It's going to go by so fast, though.
Right.
It's going to feel like,
blinked. Yeah. But thank you again, Sydney. And thank you to our listeners. Thanks for tuning in. Just wishing everyone a wonderful day of learning. And an additional hope for you today is that kindness meets you on your doorstep, and you share kindness with others. So thank you, Sydney, for inspiring a little bit more kindness in the world today. And stay tuned for our next episode. You won't want to miss it. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Everything is Learning. If you loved this episode, share it, subscribe to hear more awesome content, and let's keep the conversation going. Stay curious and keep learning. We'll catch you next time.